Rory, I always take this time, it's kind of customary to ask you how you're doing over there in the UK.
I'm very well indeed. I'm ready to go and very interested to see what we're going to show everybody today.
I love that you're just a happy person. Like every time I ask you, you're doing great. Nothing is going wrong in your life.
Not at the moment, no.
That's awesome. Okay, well, I'm doing pretty well as well. We're going to talk about the area of test-driven development a bit and using CodeRush with that. We'll look at the templates that are available for helping out with creating test cases, and we'll also look at just in general take a look at consume first development, because that style of development is a nice way to save time in terms of writing code.
Sure.
I do have the 11.1 beta installed on my machine, so you'll probably see some of the deep declare features showing up there, which impact TDD style development. And then at the very end, we'll take a look at some third-party plugins that customers have written to improve TDD. So with that, let me show you what I've got over here. I have well, hold on one second. I just want to shut down. I just got a tweet coming in. Let me shut down that, and I'll also shut down my IM so I don't get any interruptions while we're working here. Okay, so I have a low-level assembly called shapes with a class 1 in it, and nothing is in it yet. I have also an MS test solution or test project here that has essentially just the default test method 1 that was given to me when I created it. And I have an NUnit test as well. I've added references from both of these test projects into Shape, so that's where we'll have we'll start creating some of our code. And so the idea is I want to create a Shape for graphics drawing program. I've also added references to system.drawing, I believe. Yeah, there you go, right there. So system.drawing is in there. So we'll do create that. So with that said, we'll go over. I'm going to start over here in the NUnit shapetest.cs file, and I want to create a new test fixture. In fact, here, let me bring up the CodeRush training window so we can see that, because it should be there. There it is, right there. See, I can use the letter T for a test fixture. So I just type in T, and then I can press the space bar to declare it, and then there you can see it's built the new NUnit test fixture for me. One of the things that's really cool about the templates in CodeRush for building test fixtures and test methods, the attributes for test methods, and also the assert calls, is that they are framework independent. So if you switch to another framework, for example, we go over here to MS Shape Test, we want to create a new test fixture up here. We just come in here and type in the letter T again, and now it gives us a new test fixture for MS Test. So let me I'll just undo that because we've already got.
So CodeRush already knows the differences between the two frameworks. So which attributes to generate, the class structure, maybe the names of some of those setup and teardown kind of methods if you're needing them.
Exactly, right.
So you don't have to remember any of that.
What's cool is that if you're using one framework and you switch to another framework, you don't really have to switch up the keys that you press to generate the test fixtures and the test.
So that's like switching between BB and C#, similar kind of deal. You've got the same trigger kind of mechanisms in both cases.
It's as if we were actually thinking about it before we shipped.
I know, amazing, eh?
You know what I mean, Rory? It's as if we actually designed this before we shipped it out.
Who does that? I mean...
It's exactly the intent, because we want to reduce the burden when the developer is moving between different environments or contexts or frameworks, lower that burden of transition so that the developer is really thinking more at a higher level, right? That's what the templates afford us. So with that, let's build our first test. I'm going to call this test children, I think is what I'm going to do. I'll start off with this test. And inside of the test method, I want to create a new shape. And I will, let's just pass in nothing, I think, for now. I'll hit semicolon to get out. And now is the first point where I'm going to start using the CodeRush key to give me the consume first development. So I've got an expression at the caret. I'm going to hit the CodeRush refactor key, and I'll choose declare local. So not terribly impressive. We'll call this shape 1. Or maybe, no, I'll call it parent shape. Okay. We'll hit enter, we'll get out over here, and now let's duplicate the line, and let's call this one child shape. I hit shift enter to duplicate the line. And then let's come in here to parent shape, say parent shape dot add child, and pass in child shape. Okay. Actually, you know what, let's not do that. Let's instead call it parent shape dot children dot add. So what am I doing? I'm writing a bunch of code that doesn't exist, right? And this is what I'm doing. So let's do a few more things. Let's set child shape dot color equal to cl dot plum, and we'll set let's set parent shape dot name equal to something like that. All right, I'm going to change that to parent shape. So we're going to specify both of these like this. So we have a whole bunch of code that doesn't compile yet. Oh, you know what I want to do is I want to change this from shapes to shape. I just want it to be singular. That's what I want the class name to be. Actually, you know what? Let me undo all that. Let's pretend I did it wrong the first time. Okay, so let's go in here. So after I've done that now, I should be able to. Oh, it's not available because I think I just changed it all over. Let's try that again. If I hit enter on that line and come back, still not available. So I should see, and I think let me try this. Let me just try cutting all the clipboard, coming back, see if that gets the parser to give it to me available. It's not. Oh, you know why it's not available, Rory? Because I'm specifying the name of a namespace inside of here that actually exists.
Yes. So because it's already declared.
Yeah, I was thinking it was like a parser issue. You know, I made some changes. The parser hadn't caught up yet, and it turned out I was wrong. The product was right. I was wrong. So I was referring to a namespace that, as you can see up at the top, they're using shapes. So I already have the shapes namespace out there declared. Okay, so now that we've done this, let's go in here. What we're going to do, we'll declare the class. So I'll hit the CodeRush factor key, choose declare class. And now you get something that looks like this. So look what it does. It takes that code that it sees there and it says, all right, well, I see you're assigning a string to the name, a color to the color property, and you've got something dot add. So let's make it so that it can do an add on there for you, like that. And so what you get is you get a fair amount of useful code to start out with, right? The thing is, though, is that this is in the wrong place. It's in my unit test place. I really want to move it over to my shapes namespace over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this and I'm going to just cut this to the clipboard using Control X or Shift Delete, the cut key, and I put that on at the beginning of it. Now I can paste it over here to just move it over there very quickly. Okay. So there's my shape. And now I want to keep going along my test. And now what I want to do here, I've added a child, and so what I want to do is I want to check to see if the parent shape dot child count is equal to 1. And so now I can use the assert templates, and the assert templates look like this. Okay, and these are the different templates that I can use. So a equals gives me assert dot r equal. So I could just use that, AE, it's a nice one, whoops, not AR, AE like that, it gives me this. Or I could also use, notice we've got a shortcut for AE1 if we want to check if something's equal to 1 or not, and that's what I'll use for this. I'll say AE1 like this, and then I'll say parent shape dot child count. Doesn't exist yet, so we'll hit the CodeRush refactor key on that, and we'll choose a declare property. And I won't choose with backing store or auto implemented because I want to actually calculate it. So I'll choose declare property, select where I want to put it, and then here I'm going to return children.count, something along those lines. I'm going to copy this to the clipboard. Let's go into here. Let's say this is equal to, just paste that in, that's equal to a new list of shapes, and let's do that. Oops, I don't want to do it. So sorry, I did the wrong one. That's the one I want to get the class right there. New list of shapes. So just to see what I did there, here's what I did first. I did an NL for new list of, and then I did that, and that brings in what's on the clipboard over there. You can see it's a new list of paste on the.
Yeah. So backstroke for clipboard right stroke for the current type you're sat within.
Right,
in this case,
the current
shape.
type I'm in, which is going to be new list of shape. That's what I did there. Yeah, I always get those mixed up. I actually had those in my mind about a half hour ago, and I was like, it indicates to me that we really maybe picked the wrong character for one of those two, and we need to do something else, because I apparently am totally dyslexic when it comes to these two items. Okay, so we're going to say it's equal to new list of shape, and now we're going to use, hit the CodeRush factor key and choose declare field on here. So it's more of that consume first development that's going on. Okay, so we've now created a new instance of it. In fact, what we should probably do actually is not do that yet. And let me just set a marker here, and let's come, whoops, over here. Okay, let's at least do that so we have it, but we're just not initializing it. Okay, come back over here. So now we've got our R equal call over here, and let's now run it. So to run the test case, if I have my hands on the mouse, I can just click and hit run test. Or if my hands are on the keyboard, I can use a shortcut for running it, which is Control-TR to run the test that I'm currently in. So we have a test is failed right here. If we want to see those results, we can go into the tool windows, bring up the unit test runner, and here we can see what's going on here. So test children has failed. And the issue here is that it says object reference needs to be set to the instance of an object. So we can see what's going on here. What we can do if we want is we can set a breakpoint here, for example, or actually we need to probably set it right up there. We can come in here and we can say let's debug the test instead. So we go in there, the breakpoint's enabled. We're now inside of that. Let's now hit, to step into this, we'll hit F11, and whoops. Did I hit F11? I think I did, but it didn't jump into that. That's odd that it did not do that. Let's try one more time. Let's debug into this. I'm going to try hitting just the step into button right there. I'm expecting to totally go into the other class right over here. Oh wait, it's this that we're accessing. So there is no step into. Sorry about that. Okay, so it did work as I expected. So the problem is that that is null, and we have a null reference there. So the first thing that I guess we want to do on that in terms of changing that, at least, is doing this right here. And I guess in the spirit of true TDD development, I should have this fail at some point and then come back in, the test fail first, and then come back in and fix it. So we'll let's take it and move. Set the next statement to there, and we'll just run. We'll step through it again one more time. And now children is still null. Let's go in and see why is that the case. That does not make sense to me. Parent shape. So do I not? Is it just not? It's like as if edit and continue is not working. Let's set a breakpoint here. Make sure we're actually in here, and come back over here. We'll do it one more time.
I think I know what it is, Mark. You're actually setting the backing store underscore children equal to something new, whereas you're accessing a property children from outside.
Oh, of course. That's
so
exactly
not necessarily related at this point.
All right, so we're going to have to, let's stop debugging here for a second, and let's fix this a bit. That's exactly what it is. Thanks, Rory. Yeah, I'm clearly was not looking at this like you were, so good job on that. Good job spotting that. Okay, so what we'll do here then is on children, we'll come in here and we'll create backing store. We'll take that away, and replace it with just an underscore, that piece right there. So now it should work a little bit better. Yeah, I could have changed this, I suppose, to just be this as well, right? Taking out the underscore there. Would have been another way to fix that. So, okay, with that said, let's run it one more time. Whoops, sorry. Let's come over here. Let's debug the test. So now parent shape, if we go to children, children should be a valid value. Now we come down to here, R equal, let's just continue to run it. And there you can see the test has failed. You get the indication that the test has failed right here, expected 1, but was 0. And you see it over here as well. You see expected is 1, actual is 0. And
okay, yep.
you can find it in this right here. So there's that unit test. So what we want to do is now fix that. Let's go fix the class over here. Now we'll actually return children.count. And then we'll come back in and we can test it one more time. And there's just, I believe there's a shortcut. Let me go check this. I think there's a shortcut to run the last test that we just ran, I think. And if not, I know we have a request for that. But let's
I think you're correct. There probably is. I just can't remember what it is myself.
Yeah, I don't see it. I thought for sure we had run last test. Let's see what we have here under unit test. So maybe there's just not a binding to it. Unit tests run failed. Run class run cursor. I think it's not been implemented yet. I'm not seeing it immediately in this list sticking out. So it looks like maybe it is not in here yet. Okay, so it looks like we need to add that. So all right, so so at any rate, we can run.
I'll tell you what it is, Mark. There is in fact, it's not a command, but there is a tool button on the test runner. The fourth one in is a repeat last tests.
Why don't we have a shortcut for that?
That's a good question.
Maybe it's got a different name in it. Maybe it doesn't start with unit test runner. Maybe somebody give it the some everything starting with repeat last test. Look at that. So it's there. It's just got an odd command. So hold on. Let me hit cancel because I was messing with something else. We'll go back up in here again, and we'll set a binding for it and verify that it's working the way we're expecting it to work. So let's see. Unit testing. Yeah, so we'll do, I'm going to do Control
T for last.
Sure, that sounds great. Let's do that. And so we'll create a new shortcut, and we'll make the binding be Control TL for last test. Whoops, Control T goes here, Control L, whoops, Control L goes there. And the command is repeat last tests.
If we're going to fit with the previous ones, Mark, perhaps remove the control from the second one.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. We'll do that. Yeah, so CodeRush actually makes a distinction from this. It's almost as if we need to put the control there, I think, because it's a little easier, I think, to put the control there.
That's plausible, yeah.
But anyway, let's try it. So control, let's go outside of this. Control TL, and it's running it, actually debugging it. We went into debug mode is what happened, and we had no shortcut there. So let's. What's interesting is it said it was still failed though. Let's see what that. Let's see if I run it from right here. There we go. So that passed. So what was interesting. Let me just change this a second, and I'm going to hit Control TL. And why did it say it failed? What is the fail for? Oh, because that does make sense, because I did make a change there. All right, so we want that to be 1, Control TL. Oops, Control TL. And there we go. We have it passing now. Okay, so that is a little bit about using the test runner and working with consume first declaration. And what else is interesting there that we talked about? The templates also for creating test methods. Let's just do one more, and we'll just play with that a little bit more. So we'll come in here and we'll type in T to create a new test method. If I bring up the training window, we should see, do we see that in there for test methods? Looks like this is not in here for creating a new test method. So all we need to do is just type in T again in spacebar, and they'll give us a new test method. This time we can say like test color, for example. I'm going to drop a marker here and come up and just copy some construction code and come back and paste it in. We'll say parent shape dot color is equal to CL dot powder blue, and then copy that to clipboard and say AE for equal, and then we can just run that as well, see what's going on there. This is like a little bit like this is the cheating way of doing TDD, where you actually fix the test case rather than fixing the actual piece out there. Did you notice that? Did anybody notice that? Yeah. But it's at the very least, it's demonstrating the there you go. Now we've got a pass right there as well. So so that tells you a little bit about the pieces that we have with regards to running the tests that are out there. Let's see. With regard to the test runner, I'm not sure if we did this or not already in terms of talking about this, but I can talk about the different pieces that we have available inside of it. One of them is the ability to specify whether you want to see the results of the test, and you can put them left and right, or top and bottom, or not at all. With the test runner itself, if you double-click on it, you can see that it will run the test. I can right-click on it, and I can say Go to Test. I want to do that as well. The options for the test runner are inside DevExpress Options dialog under Unit Testing here. The test runner window options are right here. What's cool about this is you can come in and you can specify what the syntax is going to be like for each of these different pieces, including namespaces in the call stack. So if you want to, you can say, well, I want my namespaces to be, like for example, an orange or something like that, and my types to be a particular color as well. You can also syntax highlight according to what Visual Studio does if you prefer to do that instead. So we can do that. Although namespaces and the file names is something that there's no standard for in Visual Studio, so you still have the ability to specify those colors. And so we can do that. Oh, the other thing that's interesting too is with regards to the call stack. Let's get a fail in here, and we'll run this, and we'll look at the call stack on there. And so here's the call stack. With regard to the call stack, you have some options with regard to how you see it. So notice here it's nunit.framework.assert, and then you have nunit test children. What you can do is you can choose from line view, which is like this, or tree view, which is like this. And what tree view does is it groups by type. So often you'll have several methods within a type, and when you do, if you want to see those clustered together, you can do that by just choosing the tree view. And then the other option here is to hide call stack items that don't have file references. In other words, from references that are not from code that's not part of the project. In other words, a reference assembly. So you can do that if you want, and you can just see a simplified version of the call stack.
Nice.
You can click here to jump to the test as well. Okay.
Cool.
Let's do one other thing right here. Let's do one more thing. Let's do an R equal. Let's pass in the dog jumped over the log as a string. I think I have a demo of this in and change that to say fox, and log jumped over the fox. And then let's just run it just to see what the output results are of that. So here you can see what's going on, and we're actually highlighting all the differences that we see between the two strings there, which is useful if you have more than one difference through there. Okay, so I wanted to create a second one. The only other thing I guess we'll do is I just want to remind people that this ability to come in here and say things like, you know, to make a method call here, whatever that's going to be, and then declare it is powerful, and it's there, right? I'm just hitting one key to go declare it. I'm jumping across to this other project. This is called class. I'm just noticing that the file is called class1.cs. Let's just fix that. New file to match type. But you're just moving over. You're writing the code, whatever that's going to be, and then jumping back, and then jumping back to the test place.
So in the true sort of test first or test-driven development, we might declare an assert equals, which compares a known expected value with the result of a method we haven't yet made. Declare the method, don't bother to code anything in the innards, show that the fail has occurred, and then go back and correct it so that it returns the right value.
Right. So a variation of that, we might do something like this. We can say default color, like that, for example.
Yeah.
And we can come in here and say, let's declare the property. Now, since this takes an object, it's not, CodeRush did not, the parameter here is an object, not a color. Right inside here is what I'm talking about, with regards to this assert r equals.
There's no specific override for color, that's true. So
exactly. So it didn't get the result, the type to be the one we wanted it to be. However, I guess two things. One is I suppose we could probably make our declaration smart in this case, right? If we're in an assert call to a testing framework and we're passing in two parameters, we could maybe use the type of the other if we basically resolved to object. That could be something we could do to make it smarter. And however, right here we could just do this throw not implemented exception right there. That could be an example of the first piece that we do there. And so now we can go in here and run this. And now we should be able to see that we have an exception, and we should have a more interesting call stack over here too. So here you can see inside shapes, and there I can click it. And that's kind of nice, right? Because I see the call stack right there.
That's right, yeah. It takes you right to where you're going to want to make the correction, as it were.
Right. And so now we can say something like return color dot, we'll make plum the default color like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
it should be noted that whilst color isn't necessarily an exceptional item, it's also not necessarily a very common one for testing. A lot of your tests will be in counts of various things, so integer comparisons, or correct strings, or the quantities and knowable dates, things like this. And for those, most testing frameworks have exact overloads for those types, which means that CodeRush will pick up on that and will declare the return values of your method exactly as you expect them to.
Yeah, I think that you're right. I think you may have better. I think you're likely to have better luck with most of the things that you do in terms of getting that return type. It's based on the context of the surrounding code. CodeRush determines type based on that. So if the clues are out there, CodeRush can find those. Let's do one other. Let's work with enums for a second. Parent shape dot shape type equals. And let's go and say shape type dot rectangle like that. And let's do, in fact, you know what, let's do this. Let's copy this, come down here, and create a new test method, and shape type like that. And we'll go like this, shape type is equal to shape type dot rectangle, and then we might want to have an assert equal down here as well, where we're going to say is the shape type equal to, maybe we'll say not that, we'll say circle. And so if I want to declare that, I can come in and say let's declare that enum, and we'll come down here, we'll add the circle as well. Oops. So, so normally this is all this shape type piece. Let me try one other thing. I want to try putting it in a slightly different location and see if it will find something else here. Try it up here. It does find it there. It doesn't find it when it's a parameter. Okay. So that seems to be the key. Do you see that, Rory? It does not find circle when it's a parameter to a method, and I'm not sure why that is. So, but let's go ahead and we'll declare this. I'll just use tab next reference to get up there, put a comma, and then hit escape to come back. And then let's come in here and let's declare this piece. Declared auto implemented. So, oh, well, that's going to be a problem right there. Circular reference. Let's take shape type and move it out to here. And then move type to file. And so we have that. So now we have, in our low level, we have shape and shape type there. And now let's come back and we'll run that test that we've just created here. This line is causing the test to pass, and we don't want it to pass. Let's get rid of that right there. Try one more time, run tests.
Just to remind people, we are quite happy to take any questions on this. We've not had any received so far, but if any of this is passing you by, or you've got a question on exactly how part of the test runner works, maybe a template that maybe you haven't seen that you'd like to see, perhaps we already have and we just haven't mentioned it. I do note that we've got quite a few attribute-based templates, if I remember correctly, that we have regarding tests. So things like just the test attribute, if you already have a method that you've declared.
Right.
We can just go with an angle bracket, or sorry, it's a square bracket T in the case of C#, I believe.
Okay.
Things like that.
What's cool is if you're over here in, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say you can extract part of a test, name the method setup, and then add a setup attribute to that, which will then have that setup routine run prior to each and every test.
Right.
So it's good for setup logic. There are some people who don't like that particular strategy. It's sort of up for debate as to whether it's a good strategy or not, but we certainly support it if you choose to implement things that way.
I'm not a fan, but you could go something like this. If we wanted to use an instance of parent shape every single time for some reason, or probably a better example would be like some sort of graphics canvas, right? If we had a canvas that we were creating, that we were going to work with every single time. And we might come in here and declare that, come in here, declare this class. This class would likely not be here. We would probably move it again over into this location right here. So we're inside the shapes location. Escape to get back. And then, but we might do this. We might say, okay, well, let's widen the scope, promote it to a field, like Rory's talking about here. I like to have my, I think I have an option setting change here, but I like to have my fields with underscores on them. So we promote that to a field, and then what we can do is we can come in and, well, actually, let me undo this a second, because I actually didn't want to have the initialization come up. I want to split that, and then I want to promote it to a field. Like that. All right. And so now we have this, and we can say, well, let's extract this method, this into its own method, and then we can now make it a setup. I don't remember what the attribute is. Is it just S?
I think it's setup and angle bracket S, perhaps without the SU. There you go.
SU.
That's correct.
Okay, like that. So we can do that. Let's set a breakpoint here, and oh, we don't need the call. We did the extract method, so we have to take this out right here. We probably have to make this one public as well, I bet, to make that all work. So let's try this. Let's set a breakpoint here, and let's try and do the run and see if we're doing this right. Oh, I hit run. I need to hit debug. Sorry. I'm expecting you to get a breakpoint there first. There's set canvas.
There you go.
And then down here, we're going to do more code. Yeah, that's it.
Sure.
So,
and just to remind people that the reason why some people don't like doing that particular strategy is because it may be considered bad strategy to keep any kind of state in your testing class. But if you're fairly confident that your setup is going to establish all state ahead of time, and it's as a uniform fashion that maybe this entire group of tests is going to require, then it's not too bad. But if you keep these test classes fairly short, you'll certainly be able to see any problems fairly quickly.
Yeah, I use this with caution, I guess I would say. I'm not a fan at all of setup and teardown. It makes me nervous. Right? Anything that has to do with state and testing, or state and running application, it just makes me nervous because it's a prime candidate for logic errors to crop up. Okay, so with that, what I want to do next is I want to, well, you see, we're talking about the attributes. Let me show you where you can see all of these in here. In the DevExpress options page, IDE, sorry, not IDE, editor, templates. And in editor templates, there's a section called testing. And in testing, we have different categories for the different frameworks. And so you can open up the framework you're working with, and then you can see what's available inside of here. You have the asserts are here, so you can see all the asserts that are listed out. The attributes are here, so you can see all the special attributes here, expected exception, ignore, that sort of thing. And we really worked hard to make a lot of overlap, when overlap existed, between the frameworks. So for example, IA for ignore, if we come in here and we say, okay, well, we want to ignore this test now, so we type in IA like that, there's our ignore. If we were over in MS Shape, we could do the same thing over in test method IA, and this should work as well, go to ignore. Okay, and the thing I'm not sure if let's see if I something I was going to point out with regard to. Oh, I know what it was. It was the T attribute for test. I just wanted, I wanted to remind, this also emphasizes it, right? If this test attribute didn't exist here and I wanted to add it, I can type in open angle bracket T, and it gives me test. And if I come over here and I do the same thing, open angle bracket T, it gives me test method. So again, it sees the difference between the two. And so what's cool is you only have to learn it. You only have to learn it once. So that's where you can see the attributes are all in here, and that's the main things that I think are interesting: the asserts, the attributes, and these main sets of templates here for creating test classes, test fixtures, things like that. But again, there is that shortcut T, which will go straight off and create a test fixture for you.
And T is a beautiful template anyway, because it'll leave you a test fixture if there's no particular context, but it'll also give you just the test if you're already inside a test fixture, making it just that much more simple to learn.
Yeah. Okay, and with that, go ahead, what do you want to say?
One little aside is if you're using VB.NET, it's not a square bracket, it's an angle bracket. But then you're used to that because that's how you do your attributes.
That is a great point to mention, and I apologize for not saying that, Rory. Okay, so the ignored tests look like this. The failed tests, you've seen those. Let's go to we set up the binding for repeating the last test, which is nice, right? Because now I can be over here in shape, right? So let's run a test, and we'll just show that one more time, show how that's useful. So come over here. We can do what we were doing. We were doing this shape type is shape rectangle, and we're doing this test right here. Let's do something here where we're going to say parent shape dot default shape. So we'll do the same thing. This time we'll make it into a method. We'll use CodeRush to put it in there. We'll create it. And here we're going to say return shape type dot rectangle like that. Let's change that so it is it's returning that piece. So let's have this return none at first. We'll declare that. So I'm just hit the CodeRush refactor key, and it went right in and declared it for me because it didn't exist, and I hit escape to get back. So now we have good default shape, which is going to fail, and then we can go in, we'll run the test, we'll make the fix. So it's ignored. Let's fix that. So now I just fixed it. Let me just hit Control TL, and now it should run that same one again. Now there you go. It got a fail on it, and as we were expecting, it was there. You can see it was expecting rectangle, but got none. Now we can come over here and get default shape, jump into there, change this to rectangle, hit Control TL. And then we can see that it passed right down there,
nice.
Which is nice. Okay, so that's good. That repeat last test command is good.
Okay.
Now with that, what I want to do next is I want to go over into.
Can we just take a small pause just for a second there?
Yeah.
We've got one question in the chat there. Basically, it's a question of do we support the category attribute? And this is a very interesting question. The category attribute, for those who aren't so familiar with such things, is kind of like it's a decorative attribute. It sits on a test, and you give it a name, and maybe you give several tests the same, sorry, not the name, but with the specific category. And the idea is that in certain test runners, you would be able to choose that category, and from multiple levels that it was aware of, it would run all tests with the same category.
You know what, I can't test here. Let me see if I can test it over in this. I'm using an older version of NUnit, and I think it may not have support for categories yet, or it may just not have support. Yeah, MS, oh great, this doesn't either. I can't check that to see if we support that or not yet. I don't know. I will, good. What,
I have not explicitly seen any testing for it. Sorry, any examples of it working. I would have assumed that it would alter the mechanism by which the hierarchy is shown in the test runner itself. So I'm guessing we don't. If we don't, I would guess that the suitable way of doing this would maybe have an alternate tab for the tree, and then to sort of switch into category mode, giving a list of categories, and then sort of right-click a category and say run those tests. but I have not seen anything like that.
You know, it's a great question. I just noticed that one of our developers, Alex Skorkin, is actually in the in watching this. Skorkin has this great site out here called Skorkin.com, which is just this amazing site of tips and tricks on CodeRush. And Alex, if you know the answer to this about categories, whether we're supporting this or not now, maybe you could just chat with me here inside of, or I don't know if you can post, yeah, you can, you're an organizer, I guess. So yes, Alex, post a question here to us, or post an answer if you know whether we support this inside of the chat window for GoToMeeting, and we'll find out. Okay, so we'll research that, and if I don't get an answer from, if we're not sure, we don't have an answer by the time we end, I will I'll put a blog post up about it and see what the answer is to categories. It definitely is. I do remember the request came in about several months ago, and I said yes, we should do it. So I just don't know if we've done it or not yet for level 1. Okay, so in DevExpress menu, I'm going to jump over to Community Plugins to get to that page. And we'll say get some plugins, and we'll come down here to the testing plugins, and there are 4 of them here that are interesting. One of them is create test method, and this is built by Casey Kramer, and Casey does a lot of TDD development, and he's created a number of features all wrapped up in this one plugin. One of them, which is kind of interesting, is a code issue which indicates test methods that do not have any assertion calls inside of them, which is nice.
Oh, very nice.
He also has move to setup, so you can take I'm not sure if this works with a, oh wait, here we go. Interesting. So we can just take a single line, it looks like, and move it to setup. I thought it was maybe a selection. So if you have a setup method and you have this piece right here and you want to move it to setup, you just hit that key and you hit whatever binding you have to that command, and it'll move it right up to setup. The create test method. So this one is a little bit odd right here. I'm not sure I would go with this too much, but still, like, you know, potentially useful. So if you have a comment that you need to do something, you can put the caret on there, and then you can get a test method stub generated based on that comment name. So that's kind of interesting. There's another one that Casey does, which I think is it the well, let's see. I forget which other, the second one that Casey does. Let's look at that one. Is it navigate to test? There it is, navigate to test. So this one is kind of interesting. If you're on a class and you want to navigate to all the tests that work with that, you can install this plugin, and then, for example, here we're on the class dinner, and you can say jump to dinner tests, and then you can see all the lists of tests that you have there for dinner. Inside the different classes here, you can see he's got dinner's controller test, dinner test. Looks like a very useful plugin, and I like this part down here. Why did I build this? You know, he talks about what he's working with, what he's trying to do, and this is how he wants to get to the, you know, wants to find those tests quickly. So that's a very useful plugin. Both of those, the create test method and navigate to test, both created by Casey Kramer. Interesting to look at. Generate test. So this one will create a new test project and a new test class and a new test method.
I remember doing that. That was quite some time ago. That's a fairly old one, but yeah, basically what it does is it takes the class you're in and determines that first of all looks at the project, decides to create a parallel project called whatever your project is _tests. It will then generate a test class in there, and it will generate a test on the assumption that you're looking to test the class that you started off in. Yeah. So it gives you all of that extra fiddly work that you really didn't want to have to do. It's kind of a work in progress. We're hoping to make it support multiple different frameworks. At the moment, it's just NUnit simply because it's what I was using, but it does support C# and VB, so it will happily create those for you.
But you have full source code for this.
Oh yeah,
so
every single plugin on this site.
See how it works. Yeah, it's kind of nice if you don't have a test framework, so you don't have a test project set up, and you want to just very quickly get it and going, get up. And
yeah.
The last one, I really like this one a lot. Holy cow, do I like this. This is from Jim Argyropoulos. So I knew I should have said it faster, and it wouldn't have sounded like I mess it up. I don't, Jim, I apologize so much if I'm saying your name incorrectly. This is a better, in my opinion, a better viewing of expected versus actual results, and talks about some of the things that he did with regards to these visualizations that he created and added in there, so you can hover over and see those results. He talks about some of the problems with our current viewer when we go up and show you what how the test has failed, and shows his fixes to these. I really like them. I like these views. They are up here in the views that we have. They're relatively noisy. They don't scale well if something's really long like this, for example. And I really like what he's done here with regards to the viewing and the display of that. So that's another one that you can take a look at. And when I'm talking about plugins, I should say these are things that you guys everybody can create. It's easy to do, and Rory and I have a weekly plugin building webinar that we do every Wednesday at 12 o'clock noon Pacific time. And what time is that over there in the UK? That's like about 8 p.m.?
8 p.m. local time here. Yeah. Same time as this webinar, so yeah.
Same time as this webinar. And that's it. So do we have any other questions?
I believe that's it. Let me just double check. No, that was it. That's us covered.
Thanks, everyone. And so we'll follow up on the category question. We'll see if we have that. We figure that out, get an answer to that. If we don't, let's put it this way. If we don't support it, our intention is to support it soon. If it's not in 11.1, our intention is to support it in either an update between 11.1 and 11.2 or 11.2 itself. So that's my response to that. Okay? And with that, Amanda, I will pass it back over to you.
Awesome. Thank you. All right. So, yes, Mark?
I was just going to say, everybody join us tomorrow for, we're going to be building features on the fly. I'm not sure what we're going to build. I've got a couple ideas, but I'm still have not yet decided what we're going to do.
I was just going to ask you, what have you decided? But
we have not decided yet. Yeah, it's you know how I am. I'm like, if I can postpone a decision to the very last 300 milliseconds or so, I will do that. Right? There's power in being able to acquire as much knowledge as possible before making a decision. Yeah. It's also why Rory puts a tweet out that says, "Hey, only 9 minutes to go, everybody, till our session." And the tweet is really more for me than anybody else, because I'm like, "Oh no, 9 minutes! I better get in and join everybody. I know they're waiting for me." And get started.
It is. It's a secret. It's really a secret code for you to
yeah, get online, Mark. We're waiting for you. We've got to start soon. Okay, Amanda.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you both. All right, so we have a whole lineup of webinars that are posted currently for the months of June and July. You can check them out and register at devexpress.com/webinars. Obviously, this week, tomorrow at noon, is the CodeRush Feature Workshop. And then Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, DevExpress welcomes XNA MVP Chris G. Williams, presenting the first in a series of webinars, an introduction to Windows Phone 7 development with Silverlight and XNA. This webinar starts off with a basic overview of Windows Phone development, covering what you need, where to get it, and how to use it. Chris will create a starter project in XNA and again in Silverlight and discuss what you get in each. And the Windows Phone emulator will also be discussed. So again, if you missed anything from this webinar or you want to review any previous webinars or check out hundreds of online product tutorials, visit us on the DevExpress channel at tv.devexpress.com. Again, thanks so much, Mark and Rory. Thank you all for joining us, and thanks for choosing DevExpress.
And with that said, I'm just going to totally interrupt your awesome ending, and I want to show one last thing, because this is a new feature in 11.1.
You're pulling a Steve Jobs on us now.
Am I doing that? Is that what? Just one last thing. Let me just tell you this: with the consume first declaration, and because it totally applies to what we're talking about, right? With consume first declaration, CodeRush has really intelligent consume first declaration for properties, methods, fields, locals, parameters, things like that. With 11.1, we've added one new declaration style, at least one, and it's to declare new events. And so I can have code like this. Now, this doesn't really make sense inside of a unit test, but I just wanted to point it out. I can come in here and I can declare the event and put it in here like that. And then keep going, declare the event trigger like that, hit escape to jump back, and we're there. So it's kind of cool to be able to do that. So I wanted to show, just wanted to show that. So declare event handler is also in there. So yeah, if you're not using this consume first declaration feature, you definitely want to be using it in CodeRush. It's a much faster way to write the code. And that's it. And we're now shutting down. Amanda's probably left the building and gone and had lunch now, and we can talk about her behind your back. Oh, she's still there. Okay. All right, guys. Thanks for. I just want to say thanks to everybody for the support. And I just got a message from Alex Corcoran. We do not have support for category attribute yet in the test runner. In other words, you can put categories in and still use them, but our test runner is not supporting categories yet. But we'll prioritize that for 11.2 or possibly sooner. I just want to let everybody know. Okay? And with that, I'm ending the webinar. Thanks, everyone.